And now that COVID-19 is a real issue, are there any special precautions in New York that I need to take to ensure that we don't accidentally spread COVID-19 or that we're in compliance with COVID-19 laws? What are the legalities concerning that?
There are a ton of COVID-19 specific things that you need to do in your medical spa. It's kind of a whole new world. So one thing you need to do is have a screening protocol for clients. So what that means is checking temperatures, having people sign a form saying that they haven't been exposed, that they don't have any specific symptoms, that they haven't traveled outside of the geographical area, things like that. And we can provide you with that consent. You have to make sure the client signs it and you put it into their file or into your electronic record system. And you also have to have an isolation plan and a separation plan for your staff and for your clients. So it's best practice not to have more than one client in at the same time in any one room. It's best practice not to have more than one staff member in any one room. So you have to stagger your appointments much more than you did before, and you have to make sure as much as you can that all the surfaces are clean, that the air is clean, way more than before. Currently, as of the making of this video, there are no specific rules that say you have to clean this way or that way, or you have to stagger appointments in a certain way. But best practices would say that just make sure that you don't have multiple clients in the waiting area, that you don't have multiple clients in the treatment room, and make sure that all of your COVID-19 related procedures are documented. If should anything happen and you get sued either by your staff or by your clients, you want to make sure that you have a really good written record and that you're following what you said you were going to do. So not just having great procedures in place, but following them. Because the only thing worse than not having procedures is having them and then not following them.
So do I need to obtain some kind of consent from clients for Botox and fillers?
You definitely need to have consent from your clients before performing any medical treatment on them. So you need to obtain what's called informed consent before the treatment. What that means is you have a form that's loaded into your electronic medical record, and they can sign right on your iPad or whatever you use for your office. And in the consent, you have to explain what are the potential complications for the treatment and what are the alternatives to treatment. And make sure that the client understands this before you start the treatment. And we can help you with your consent forms, but it's very important. It's also important because of insurance. So what that means is a lot of malpractice insurance policies will say if you don't have your clients sign consent for the treatment, the malpractice insurance will not cover any claims for that treatment. So yeah, you absolutely have to make sure you have that.
And if I get them to sign it once, is that okay? Or do I need to have them sign it again after a period of time?
You should definitely have your consent signed by your client every time you do a treatment. So every time you perform a Botox treatment, or every time you do cool sculpting or all therapy or whatever, every time have them sign a consent. The first consent can be a longer consent, and then each subsequent time you could have a shorter consent. But the best practice is definitely each time you do a treatment on a client, have them sign a new consent, because you never know, things may have changed, and when it comes time, if there's ever a malpractice claim, your insurance company will ask, is there consent for this specific procedure, not just a blanket general consent. So you want to have one for that specific thing.
Okay, and what can I do to avoid getting sued? Are there some kind of procedures that I could put into place? Is it possible to avoid getting sued?
Well, New York is a very litigious state, so a lot of people do end up getting sued in New York, unfortunately. For anything for trip and fall, so I've been at a practice where a client fell on the way to the bathroom outside the office, but it was a common bathroom shared between a couple of different practices on that floor. And the client sued the building, the landlord, all the businesses on the floor, and the medical spa. And it was great that the medical spa had great insurance and the insurance ended up covering it, but you can get sued for anything from a trip and fall to medical malpractice. To avoid claims, of course you want to have a safe practice and have a lot of procedures, but I think a lot of times lawsuits can be avoided by just being really nice to your clients. And I don't mean being a pushover, I mean really taking the time to educate the client about the procedure, what are the expected outcomes, that they're not going to look like Cindy Crawford after one syringe of lip filler. Nobody is. And really identifying potential problems early on. So if a client comes to you and they have unrealistic expectations and you treat them, it's a little bit on you if there's ever a problem. So a lot of it is about screening, a lot of it is about training, and a lot of it is about having really good written procedures in place. So we could help you with the written stuff, but I can't teach you how to be a nice person. I'm still learning how to do that myself. So I think, you know, that is the number one thing. Bedside manner is the number one predictor of malpractice lawsuits, actually, or the lack thereof.